August 1943, the Solomon Islands campaign was at its brutal peak and American Corsair pilots faced a harrowing reality. Their F4U Corsairs, advertised as the fastest fighters in the Pacific at 417 miles per hour, were routinely being outpaced by the Japanese Zeros during actual combat. On paper, the Corsair was supposed to dominate its 2,000 horsepower Pratt and Whitney or the 80 double wasp engine, inverted gull-wing design, and meticulously engineered airframe promised unrivaled performance. And test pilots in Stratford, Connecticut, lauded it as a marvel of aeronautical engineering. But above the tangled jungles and harbors of New Jersey and Munda, where air combat was fought between 10,000 and 15,000 feet, pilots discovered a cruel truth. The lightweight, highly maneuverable Zeros could accelerate away from the Corsairs in level flight at precisely the moments when American pilots needed speed the most. Major Robert Owens of VMF 215 documented the phenomenon. After a disastrous engagement on August 7th over Renova Harbor, 12 Zeros against his squadron, Corsairs diving from superior altitude, energy, and tactics in their favor, unable to maintain pursuit when the Japanese fighters leveled off. 3 Corsairs returned damaged, 1 was lost, and Owens can only know bitterly, "We should have caught them. The aircraft manual says we're faster, but we're not faster where it counts." Squadron after squadron reported similar experiences, and American intelligence, upon examining captured Zeros, found no script modifications. These underpowered, lightly armored Japanese fighters using only 1,130 horsepower were simply exploiting the physics of the denser air at combat altitudes, turning a theoretical advance on paper into a deadly vulnerability for American pilots. Between June and August 1943, Marine Corsair squadrons posted barely positive kill ratios, 1.3 enemy aircraft destroyed for every Corsair lost, a far cry from the dominance promised by the Navy. Confidence among pilots eroded, some even requesting transfers back to slower but more predictable F4 Wildcats. It was in this crisis that Staff Sergeant Jim Lefforts, a 31-year-old crew chief from Tut, Indiana, recognized that the problem. A farm kid turned marine maintenance expert, Lefforts had washed out of flight school due to depth perception issues, but had developed an uncanny ability to understand mechanical systems. By 1943, he had logged 4,200 maintenance hours on radial engines, keeping Corsairs flying when parts were scarce and logistics precarious. He noticed something subtle but critical. Returning Corsairs at 15,000 feet were running cooler than expected, signaling that while the engine had power, it wasn't being efficiently converted into thrust. Through careful logging of airspeed, engine RPM, and manifold pressure readings, Lefforts discerned a clear pattern. At combat altitude, Corsairs were losing 35 to 45 miles per hour potential speed, and the culprit was the propeller. Hamilton's standard 3-bladed 13 feet foreign propeller had been optimized for 25,000 feet, assuming future air battles would occur at high altitudes against European-style bomber formations. Its 47.5 blade pitch, perfect for thin air, while choking in the denser Pacific air at 10,000 to 15,000 feet, like a car stuck in wrong gear. Unable to transfer engine power to forward motion, regulations forbade field modifications. The propellers were government property, factory set to precise tolerances. Unauthorized changes could result in court-martial, dishonorable discharge, or even manslaughter charges if a modification caused a crash. But Lefforts, having attended 7 memorial services for pilots whose Corsairs were correct on paper, but hopeless in reality, decided the risk was worth it. Over the nights, using the slide rule, Hamilton's standard engineering specification and basic physics, Harry calculated the optimal blade pitch for dense combat air, determining that air reduction of just 2.5 from 47.5 to 45 at the effective radius would allow the propeller to bite efficiently into the thicker air, converting engine power into thrust and recovering till as 40 miles per hour. Under the cover of darkness on August 12, 1943, Lefforts and the trusted mechanics Corporal Eddie Brinks and Private First Class Tommy Hang set to work on Aircraft 17, assigned to First Lieutenant Bob McClure, a pilot who had narrowly survived multiple engagements where Zeros had simply outrun him. They jacked the Corsair's tail, removed the 130-pound propeller, and carefully heated each blade's route to 400 F, just enough to make the aluminum malleable. To avoid weakening its structure, using a 30-foot pipe wrench, they twisted each blade with painstaking precision. monitoring displacement with a makeshift measuring jig and painstaking calculations, until the three blades had been successfully repitched to 45 by 0340 hours. Aircraft 17's propeller was complete, looking factory new, aerodynamically transformed. The next morning, Major Greg Boynton, unaware he was testing a modified propeller, Taxi Dan took off for a routine patrol. At 15,000 feet, pushing the throttle to F4U wall, the airspeed needle climbed past expected limits, settling at 412 miles per hour, an unprecedented gain of 40 miles per hour. Boynton repeated the test in shallow climbs, dives, and level flight, consistently verifying the improvement. Upon landing, he immediately sought out Lefforts and demanded the modification applied to every Corsair in the squadron. By August 18th, all 18 operational aircraft in the MF-214 had received the modification, and the combat results were immediate. On August 19th, 8 Corsairs intercepted 15 Zeros escorting bombers, and in an engagement lasting just 11 minutes, Femto and Audrey Hutto 14 claimed 7 confirmed kills with no significant damage to their own aircraft. Pilots described the experience as revolutionary. For the first time, they could dictate engagement terms, deciding when to fight and when to disengage, leveraging the Corsair's superior speed to exploit Zeros' weaknesses. Rather than being constrained by physics, the unauthorized modifications spread rapidly. Other squadrons, intrigued and desperate to regain an edge, visited Munda Airfield to observe, learn, and replicate Lefforts' technique, often without formal permission. By September, kill ratios across modified Corsair squadrons had skyrocketed from 1.3 to 1 to over 11 to 1. When the Navy Bureau of Aeronautics deciphered the field modifications, a formal investigation was launched, threatening court-martial for Lefforts, Boynton, and Major Bailey. The initial assessment labeled the changes as criminal negligence and reckless endangerment, but the combat data, pilot testimony, and independent engineering review told a different story. The propellers were structurally sound. The modification strategy improved performance and risks had been expertly managed. By October 1943, the Navy quietly acknowledged these specifications were wrong for combat altitude. And in November, formal technical orders were issued standarding Lefforts 45 pitch across the F4U and F4U Corsairs retrofits proceeded immediately. And by early 1944, thousands of Corsairs were combat optimized with improved thrust and speed, fundamentally changing air tactics in the Pacific. The modification allowed pilots to engage on their terms, extended their survivability, and directly contributed to the Corsair becoming the dominant carrier base fighter in the theater. Ultimately achieving kill ratios of 14 to 1 by the end of the war. Lefforts, who never received an official medal, continued his work training mechanics, and his innovation became a case study in adaptive field engineering, influencing crews through Korea and beyond by bending propeller blades to 0.5 at a time. Jim Lefforts didn't just fix a plane. He shaped the Pacific Air War, proving that the people closest to the problem can sometimes out-engineer entire bureaucratic experts, and that innovation under pressure can change the course of a story.